Me and my colleagues spent some time looking at all the articles that had Mazher Mahmood's byline over a long period of time, more than 10 years, more than 15 years, and also talking to people who had worked with him or had been his victims. And from that alone, you can see that his methods were very similar in many of the cases, and they were always corrupt. By that I mean that it looked as if unlawful methods had been used, but also that in almost every case, in fact it was hard to find any case where this wasn't the case, there was entrapment, and what he said was the basis for doing what we call surreptitious filming, which you're allowed to do if you have a valid reason in advance, was never there. There was no valid reason in advance. It was a fishing expedition in almost every case to try and entrap people. That's not what the readers of the News of the World were told, or in his other papers. So it was dishonest in that sense. And we're beginning to find, from the fact that so many people are now bringing claims for hacking, which means listening to voicemail messages and other associated illegality, not just phone hacking, the obtaining of other private data by deception, such as obtaining itemized phone bills to see who was phoning who. We could see from that alone the number of people who are Mazher victims bringing claims that it looks like there's evidence out there that he was involved in that. And we can see actually in the public domain that there are people who he targeted, or where he can see that phone hacking was used through Glenn Mulcair, for example, on some of those stories. Stories written by Mazher Mahmood, the fake sheikh, are the worst kind of journalism. Terrible in terms of their honesty and their legitimacy, and devastating in the effect that it had on innocent people who were normally, about 90%, were not already famous people or powerful. He never punched up, always down, often to people who he accused of working in the sex industry, or people he accused of dealing drugs, who may well have been drug users, may well have been addicts, people with mental health problems, immigrants, asylum seekers, and people here illegally. And he would just take advantage of the fact that he knew that almost all those people didn't have the resources to sue the News of the World, so they could never have any recourse to law, that he could do it with impunity. And the impunity that he had from being untouchable in financial terms was reinforced by the fact that the police were under pressure by him and the News of the World to pursue every nonsense story that he wrote. And some of those cases ended up being taken to court, and some people were convicted, and some of those went to prison. And I can't find very many people at all of the numbers who went to prison who deserved to go to prison. These were miscarriages of justice based on fraudulent techniques, and I would say, and these claimants would allege, and we can see it in the Chulisa case, perjurious evidence given by Mazher Mahmood with the knowledge of the people he worked with on the news desk and the editors and deputy editors of the News of the World at the time. It's appalling. It's a scandal. It's a huge miscarriage of justice, and there ought to be proper investigations into it. And I'm hoping that the fact that some of this is now coming to the civil courts will open this up. A number of the people who had convictions, not every one of Mazher Mahmood's stories were taken seriously by the police, and some that were rejected by the police, having been taken seriously. Others were rejected by the Crown Prosecution Service, and some people were acquitted in high-profile and expensive cases. But for those who were convicted, many of them brought appeals at the time, and they can't bring an appeal again, and therefore their only recourse is through the Criminal Cases Review Commission, which is slow. A number of them are bringing hacking claims, and I imagine that if they get admissions or settlements or information to them disclosed in the litigation, under the rules of the litigation, that they're then able to use with permission of the court in their appeal, that they will be able to go to the CCRC, the Criminal Cases Review Commission, and get justice. A large number of people, a significant number of people, you can see from the public register, are making claims. There are people like Emma Morgan, who was a model at the time, who was treated very badly and accused of things that weren't true, framed. Another person like her called Lisa Bangett, another model, who was treated in this way. Alex Smith, a minor TV personality, who was convicted. He was one of the ones convicted. John Alford, of course, from London's burning. He was convicted, lost his appeal, went to prison, lost his career. He's had a settlement from the News of the World, and he's awaiting a statement in open court, which I think will be an admission. And that will be very significant for many of the other claimants. And there are many others as well who are bringing claims. There's an EastEnders actress called Lucy Speed and her then boyfriend Matthew Claxton, who you can see on the claim register, and a large number of people like that. And these were people who weren't courting fame and weren't involved in the activities they were accused of, and it had a devastating effect on them. And while it's been in many cases 25 years or more, hopefully justice will prevail, and that there's more music that Mazher Mahmood needs to face.